The Stage Door Show, celebrating the independent artist. With your host, Dave Hondel.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Stage Door Show. Tonight is a great performer, my guest out of Los Angeles, and she has a show on Sunset Boulevard on August 1st at 6 p.m., and it's a free show. It's called Real People Live Comedy Show, and so I want to make sure I get into that with her and all kinds of stuff about her work. So please welcome to the show, Kamden. Thanks for joining me tonight, Kamden.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I'm really excited to have you on the show. You know, we have a lot of artists out in LA that we have on the show, either singers, actors, performers. You know, talk about being an artist in LA, because as we were kind of talking before we started recording, and it's really a saturated market with a lot of performers, and you really have to kind of make your way. And you have to kind of stand out from the rest of the crowd and really market yourself. And so how do you do that? You know, and how long have you been in LA really? Or is that somewhere where you grew up?
Yeah. I'm from Austin, Texas. So I've not been in LA. I was born and raised in Austin, Texas. That was kind of how I developed a love for film, because South by Southwest happens in Austin every year. And since I was like about 16, I went with my mom. And I knew I needed to move to LA. I think Austin, the film environment, it's building there, but it's a little bit more exclusive and cut off versus I think LA, it's easier to kind of work your way in versus Austin, it's small. So I'm 22 now, but I moved here when I was 18 years old. I got into a really good performing arts college called AMDA. My parents were not,
one of the
how about
best.
we move here? If I didn't
There's a New York, I think there's a New York campus too, right?
Yeah, there is a New York campus, but yeah. I'm from Texas. I can't do the snow. I needed someplace warm. So I was like, I need to go to LA. So I moved here, went to college. I graduated a year early at 21. So I'm 22 and I've already been done with college for a year with my bachelor's of fine arts.
Wow.
And so, I knew what I wanted to do, and I still know that I'm supposed to be here, and it's definitely hard. LA, everybody moves here to be an actor. Everybody moves here to sing, to do something. So I think you think you're special or unique in that way, which it's not that you aren't, but you think maybe that you know you need to be here for this reason is unique until everybody is here for this reason.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, the one thing where that keeps me going is I know that I'm supposed to be here, and I know that I did not get this far for no reason. And I also will not just kind of sit and wait for someone to just give me an opportunity. Because I think if you do that, you'll just be sitting and waiting forever, and no one wants to waste their time like that. So I've just always been very aggressive and always made sure to create opportunities for myself and just bring like my closest friends along with me, or anyone who I think is talented and needs a space or a platform that hasn't had one, you know. And I think that's what's cool about LA, is that it's the place where you create stuff for yourself, you know.
Yeah. I mean, you know, you've been there 4 years now, so you've really been there through the evolution. I mean, there's been right after COVID, there's been a strike, you know, since you've been there. And you know, and you think about a lot of productions have actually left LA as well. I mean, you know, obviously the casting companies are still there. You know, you audition, you know, there. I mean, although a lot of it's self-tape still, but you know, but you're still in an area where a lot of the studios are, obviously most of the studios. But if you look at Atlanta, you look at some of and now New Jersey's building a state-of-the-art Netflix studio as well. So there's kind of, you know, there's other places like Vancouver that are building these massive studios and, you know, attracting these major companies to come there and do their filming, you know. So, I mean, has that kind of entered your mind a little bit to, you know, I mean, the 4 years that you've been there, I mean, you went to school and, you know, doing some work there, but I mean, have you kind of thought about, wow, maybe in the future, it might not be in LA, it might be somewhere else. Have you thought about that?
I think at times it's crossed my mind, but I think LA, there's just something about LA that I don't think any other state or place can try to replicate the history that LA has. I think, like, me being from Austin, there's a lot of people trying to move to Austin. There was a huge tax incentive just passed in Texas. And so but Austin's not, it's not LA. Austin, we're known for like our live music. We do have South by Southwest, but LA has a huge history going back so far where this is just where film happens. And I think it's just like anything, things come in waves. Sometimes it's doing great. Like it's just like any business, you know, businesses have their years where they're doing really great and, you know, they have a lot of making a lot of money. It's very lucrative, but then they have times where it's rough, you know, but it doesn't mean it's going to be like that forever. So I think it's just also, again, like I was saying, it's just LA, it's hard. It's not an easy place. And I don't think this is a place where anyone, I think people think, oh, I'm just going to take a bus to LA and move here. And it's not that easy. You know, I think
it's expensive too.
Kind of very expensive. And that's another thing. I would not be able to live here if it wasn't for my family helping me. And I think, that people, you know, they think that it's easy and it's not. And there's been on, like, if I'm being honest, so many months where the only reason I was able to pay my bills is because my grandmother helped me, because it's rough here. And it's not that I'm lazy or I'm not working hard. It's just sometimes you're working so hard and it is just still not,
I mean, it's not easy. Well, listen, New York is the same thing. You know, I lived in New York for 10 years and I worked in New York City in Manhattan. And, you know, people think, oh, you know, it's the best thing, you know, to move there. And it's like a dream come true. And, you know, it's like the same thing with LA. And, you know, it's a struggle every single day to get anything, you know, if you have a day job, you know, it's a struggle to get to work. It's a struggle to get there on time. It's a struggle to have free time to do your artistic endeavors. It's not as easy as people think. And I think, you know, and I talked to several actors, I mean, several people that are award-winning actors that have been in big TV shows and movies, and you know, some of them have day jobs. Some of them have had to have day jobs. Some of them, it's not just necessarily in entertainment either. It's, you know, having a regular job to get insurance and to, you know, whatever. And then they do their, you know, they have a flexible boss, hopefully, to let them do auditions, you know, on, you know, their evenings and, you know, and be able to go to, you know, like, you know, the film if they have to for a week or two or whatever. But that's few and far between. It's like, it's not, it's a struggle to be an actor. It's a struggle because when you're not working, you're unemployed. And that's another thing that people don't understand is like, you know, not only do you hear no most of the time when it comes to, you know, auditions, because it's not because of your talent level. It's because might not be what they're looking for, the look or whatever the casting director is looking for. So I think people that are new out there that are getting into acting, you know, because you went through the whole process, you know, the school, your audition, you even wrote, you know, stuff which we're going to get into in a minute, but you know, but some of the people that are out there that have like these dreams that are in, you know, maybe community theater, or maybe high school drama or something like that, they all want to move to LA, but they have to make sure that they understand you have to have a roof over your head. You have to have food on the table, and you have support from your family, which is amazing.
It's
but
a huge blessing.
Not everybody has that, you know, so it's a very fortunate thing. But, you know, look, you're there, you're doing it. And that's something that, I mean, is commendable. I mean, that's something that a lot of people just don't have the guts to do. And you just did it. So good for you for doing that. You know, but talk about this. I was mentioning this a little bit, but you have a show that you wrote and that went to the Fringe Festival. And I think it has to do with this August 1st performance. So talk about that project. And first of all, how did you get off the ground? And you said you got some favorable responses from the Hollywood Fringe. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So I wrote a play a year ago. It was like last summer. I had a few friends that I went to college with that did a play in the Hollywood Fringe Festival. And I was like, well, you know, if they can do it, I know I can for sure do it, you know? So I wrote my own play. By the time I finished writing the play, the Fringe Festival was done. So I was like, okay, we're going to wait till Fringe 2025. Yeah. And so I wrote about it, and then, you know, work, life, things happen. I forgot about it. And so I had my boyfriend read it. I had my two best friends read it, and they all, you know, they thought that it was really funny. And so I wrote it. I finished it in like July of 2024. And then I felt honestly, my process to getting to the Fringe Festival was kind of a rough one. I began to feel really depressed because, again, as you were mentioning earlier, like making the move and coming here on auditioning, it sounds easy, but it's not. And when they tell you that you hear so many no's, it's true. I recently just did a commercial for Bank of America back in May, but before that, I had spent a year and a half of auditioning and hearing nothing but no's. I'd audition and hear nothing. I'd audition and get a call back and the casting director likes me, but then I get a no. Or it's hard because it was like a year and a half of that was really rough. And the last thing I did it was 2023. It was for Rolling Stones. And so it was rough because I was like on that high. I did the Snapchat commercial, I did Rolling Stones, and now nothing for a year and a half. It was really hard.
Yeah.
And so when they opened up like submissions to enter for the Hollywood Fringe Festival, I think it was like February, and you had until April. I was like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot about that play that I wrote. And I was like, I'm going to do it because I've spent like a year and a half just waiting for someone to see that like I'm worth something and to want to invest into me. And then with everything happening in the industry right now, we are recovering from COVID, and then we had the strikes, and it's like the industry, it's like years behind, it feels. And so I was like, I'm just going to enter in my own stuff, create my own stuff, because it's just annoying just waiting for someone to just say yes to you and decide you're worthy when you're worthy,
Yeah.
So my play, Real People, it was a 1-act play. It's about like 3 high school students that are in detention. And so it originally had 4 people in it, and I had a role for my boyfriend, but he is also an actor. He had a very good year booking. He did All American and school and moving. So I had to rewrite it actually and rewrite him out of it. And so I entered it in, it got in. And so we had 3 shows just this past June. We had one the 8th, the 22nd, and the 28th. And it's a comedic show. It's very Gen Z humor. It can be really out of pocket. I had my first show, people loved it. They were laughing so hard the entire time. My second show, it was an older crowd. I don't think they liked the Gen Z humor. And it was just
the vocabulary.
Yeah, they didn't get it. They like, I think one person laughed, and I was like, okay, well, that's a little rough, but it's like not everybody's gonna like what you do, and
That's true.
It is what it is, It's like right. So I was like, it's okay. The first crowd loved it, but I got some really great reviews. I had a theater critic come to the first show. Her name is Tracy Paleo, and it's called Gia on the Move, but she's a part of the LA like drama critic circle.
Sure.
And so they will review things from Broadway, from all the way down to local theater. And so she came, and I was so anxious because I was like, this is the first play that like I wrote and that I'm directing and producing and acting in. And it was a lot, and it was not an easy journey getting there. So I was feeling so anxious about the review, but the review was like, okay, I will take it. It was going to be so bad, but she said that she thought my play was super sweet, and it had a lot to say about friendship, despite like how like raw and like funny it is, and she laughed the entire time of the play. So I think for me, it was like a small win, but it helped me just kind of like trust your gut, and that I know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing, but as we figure it out, I realize maybe I do know what I'm doing. So I got good responses. And so I decided that I wanted to keep going with this, because I'm like, okay, well, when it's done, am I just going to go back to auditioning and just waiting for somebody to give me a yes? Because, before the commercial I did back in May, I waited a year and a half, and I was like, I'm tired of waiting. Like, I'm just not waiting anymore. Yeah. So I was thinking, okay, well, I think film is just in a really interesting place in Hollywood right now. And so I was like, okay, well, what if we take and try to do more live theater, more live entertainment? Because I think film is an odd place with AI, with people worried about money and like tax incentives, and then the strike. And then I think there's some things that weren't greenlit still from COVID. And so I was like, okay, well, what if we make the slogan, we keep real people? And what if we make the slogan, we aren't AI, we are real people, because we're live performance. And I think you can replicate AI through film, but I don't know if you can necessarily do it through live performance unless one has technology that I don't know about.
Hologram. And so, yeah, right.
Yeah, I guess so. But I was like, I haven't heard of that yet. So, and I like to name Real People because in our show, 3 people, we're all very unique and have different backgrounds. I'm a Black woman from Texas. One of my friends in it, Robert, he is a Hispanic man, and his mom was an immigrant. He's a first-generation American, and he's also queer. He's a gay man. Sure. And then my other best friend who's in it, Mariangela, she's a Greek woman. She was born and raised in Athens, Greece. She moved here during COVID and when she was 18, and we met like at 18 years old. Yeah. And so I called it Real People because like I think one thing the 3 of us have in common is we're not like the I don't know, I guess the story that you would think to hear about, like an all right. None of us match that.
And you all had different experiences. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. And I liked that because I'm like, I feel like that gives us a broader reach. You have people who are immigrants, people who are queer, people of color, people from different countries. She moved across like the world, to pursue her
Well, I think
dream.
everybody should see it because,
Mhm.
I think it'd be a lot, some people might have their minds changed by watching
Yeah.
something like that. It's funny when you were mentioning this, I was thinking, because I worked in Manhattan for many
Mhm.
years, and, I took the train into Manhattan, and
Mhm.
I must have been with every day anywhere from 5 to 10 different nationalities on
Yeah.
this train, this packed train. And
Mhm.
everybody was getting along, sharing,
Yeah.
like stories and drinking coffee
Mhm.
together and sitting across from each other, 4 different nationalities, getting
Right.
along. Nobody was afraid of each other. Nobody was
Mhm.
fearing each other. Everybody was getting along, and they saw each other every day. And, if everybody took a train for a week,
Mhm.
like I always said that, take a train to New York for a week. I think it'll
Yeah.
change your mind about
Yeah.
what some fears people have, or
Yeah.
biases that they might have against somebody
Yeah.
else. And something like this sounds like an amazing piece of work, where
Mhm.
somebody can really see the differences of people, but they're coexisting
Yeah.
in a great way. So I think
Yeah.
this is fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, that I'm glad you 100% get it, because that was my intention with that. And I think me going to AMDA, there's a huge like percentage of international students, and I'd never been around this many people from a different country because I'm from Texas. In
Sure.
Texas, it's a big percentage of white people, and then we have a huge Hispanic population. But I never met anyone who was Greek, let alone born and raised in Athens, Greece.
Yeah. Right.
I have friends that were from India, from Hong Kong, I had a friend who, she's an Indian woman, her family immigrated to South Africa. And so I had friends who were Colombian, Canadian, and that was one thing we're seeing. I was like, we're all from different places, but we're so similar. Like we're all just, 18, 19-year-olds, and we have the same humor. We laugh at the same jokes. We get along very well. And I think that also just shows sometimes the conflicts that we have with each other as people,
Yeah.
how I think exasperated they can be, because we're all people at the end of the day.
The only difference is that you're,
Mhm.
the only difference is that you're a distance apart, but you're
Yeah.
the same mindset, no matter where you
Mhm.
are. And I think,
Yeah.
like I said earlier, it's like, this is something that I think everybody needs to experience something like
Mhm.
this. And so everybody needs to go, if you're in the LA area or visiting LA, August 1st, make sure you go. And it's a free show. It's a
Yes.
no brainer to go to the
Mhm.
show. And I'm going to give you the address. It's 7426 West Sunset Boulevard. And who doesn't want to
Yeah.
go to LA and see Sunset Boulevard, the famous Sunset
Right.
Boulevard? So check it out. It's called Real People Live Comedy, and make sure that you how can they get tickets to this? So they just show up at the door.
Yes, just show up at the door. We have a 55 seat capacity, so once we hit 55, then that's it. You can just show up. And I also do have a link for the Real People Instagram. It's in the bio, where you can reserve tickets, but we're not too big on that. We just would like you to show up and enjoy the show.
That's awesome. I love that. And the other thing is,
Yeah.
talking about the Fringe Festival. I was uh, really involved with the Orlando Fringe Festival for many years when my kids were in theater and regional theater. And, any Fringe Festival, no matter where it is, there's a lot of great ones out there. But, our listeners, if you've never been to a Fringe Festival, typically what you do is, I don't know, it was this way in Orlando, you buy a button and you can, see certain shows, you pay for certain shows, and you can see there's all kinds of shows going on at one time, usually in different theaters. But the nice thing about the Fringe festivals, typically, is there's a lot of experimental stuff out there. There's a lot of shows
Mhm.
that you can that you won't typically see anywhere else other than like a Fringe festival, because they're pretty daring. Some of them are
Mhm.
edgy, but some of them are super funny. And whatever taste you have, you're going to find something that you like at the Fringe festival, and I think including Shakespeare even, and all kinds of different really cool stuff. So is Hollywood Fringe Festival similar to?
Yeah. Yeah. It's exactly the same way. You buy the button, or you can just reserve a ticket for the show. There's a lot of experimental theater. I remember I was talking to one theater critic, and I was trying to get him to do a review on my show. And he said that one year he went to a show where the audience had to be naked. And he said he got naked for the show. So
Are you
there's
serious?
Yeah, there's a lot of experimental things out there. I don't
It's like, where do you
think I
put
would
the
want my
button?
audience to be naked, but to each their own, you know?
Wow, that's crazy. I've
Yeah.
never heard of that one before. That's new.
Mhm.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
But just not even just fringe festivals, but I mean, just being an artist, and I think it's like you're in LA right now. We talked about other places that there's filming, so
Mhm.
even if you live in LA, I mean, there's other opportunities throughout the country. New
Yeah.
Orleans being one place, like
Mhm.
you said, Texas being one place. Wilmington, North Carolina is still shooting film, and then again, New Jersey's now starting to do a lot more. Of course, New
Mhm.
York, and some other areas around the country. So don't limit yourself to just
Yeah.
New York or LA. I mean, you have the
Mhm.
ability to go anywhere, and just the thing is, you have to be willing to do what it takes. I guess if that's what you
Mhm.
want to do for a career, is to always audition, but also be open to maybe catching a flight, I guess, and and film wherever they're filming. And the other
Yeah.
thing I was going to ask you is,
Yeah.
there's backstage.com, there's all these
Mhm.
actors access, and there's a lot of different places that they list
Yeah.
auditions and different places that you can do work. So in LA, I know, because as I'm on backstage.com for
Mhm.
voiceover stuff, but when you look, there's a lot of LA type
Mhm.
short films, let's say, or student
Yeah.
films, or different things like that. So if you're looking out there, our listeners, if you're looking to get a reel, or to put
Mhm.
together a reel, or to put together a resume, there's a lot of different things you can
Mhm.
do. It might not be pay, or a lot of pay, or maybe very little, but at least it's getting you that experience
Oh,
to
yeah.
put together like a reel. So what are your thoughts on those types of websites where people can get that work?
Yeah, no, I think that when you're first starting off your career, I think the biggest thing is building your reel. That's the big thing, because I think if you ever want to book anything, or even want to get an agent, they need to see a reel. They just need to see you acting. So I think that's a big thing. I got lucky where my college, your last semester, they build a reel for you. You write your own scenes, they give you some scenes, and then they hire a professional crew of people that work in the industry and they film it for you. But if you do not have that resource, because school is expensive, it's not cheap, I would definitely do a lot of student films. They don't pay, but when you're just trying to get your name out there and get started, I think you just have to be really humble and just be okay with the fact that this is a stepping stone to getting me to where I need to be. And I might not be getting the money I want right now, or even the money that you very much deserve and have earned. I think it's important to build the real resume. I also just think that's important to build your resume as well. I remember I was trying to just email just so many agents when I first was looking for an agent, I think in 2023. And I had emailed so many agents, and I had 3 get back to me. One was a scam, so be careful, because
Yeah.
people, they do that. They know that this is a place where there's a lot of actors, so just be careful with
And
that.
you
Don't
shouldn't have to
anyone
pay. You shouldn't have to
Exactly, you never pay
pay.
this up front.
Right. Yeah.
Never. If anyone tells you that, they're lying to you, and immediately
Yes.
never talk to them.
Correct.
Um, another agent that got back to me, it was actually my boyfriend's agent. And that was the only reason why she got back to me. It was my boyfriend's agent. And then she said that she could see the potential, but she felt like I was too green. And so that was really hard, because I think that was like my first rejection in this industry.
Yeah.
And but it is what it is. And so the third agent who got back to me was actually my first agent, and he ended up being my commercial agent. And he took a chance on me. I had nothing on my resume. I had no reel. If we're looking at it logistically, I don't know why he signed me, but he liked my look. He had no one on his roster with my look. And that's another thing. If you have a unique look, like, use the crap out of it, because
Yeah.
I have blonde hair. I have like a gap between my 2 front teeth, and you are only you. And there's not everybody who looks like you. So there's something cool about you.
Sure.
If you have a really good skill or anything, you make sure you let people know that, because that is enough to sometimes get you in the door. But he signed me, and then within that first week, I did a commercial for Snapchat, and so it was a huge blessing. And I think at the time, me being young, like I think I was 20, I thought I'm still young, but
Yeah. Right.
I guess I thought that, oh, I got it because I was so cool and I knew I was going to have my shot in this industry. And then I did a music video for Rolling Stones. And I didn't book anything for a year and a half after that. And so I think just understanding that when an opportunity comes to you, just really be grateful for it. And I think just really understanding that I think sometimes it comes down to booking roles and getting things. Sometimes luck plays a huge part in it
Yeah.
because I've auditioned for roles where I was literally what they wanted on paper. They were like, I want a girl who's tall, who has blonde hair, who looks like she parties a lot. Like it was like my exact stereotype. And I thought my audition was good and I didn't get it. And then you see the person who booked it looks nothing like anything that they said they originally wanted.
Right.
And so I think just understanding that when you don't book something, sometimes it's not personal. They want to go in a different direction and just being really grateful. I also think when it comes to auditioning and roles and building that reel, I think things sometimes don't happen the way you think that they do. For the commercial I did, it was a Snapchat commercial for New York Fashion Week. And during that time I got signed, and then I was like on top of the world. I got a call back for that commercial and I was feeling great. And my dad called me and he was like, hey, I need to talk to you about something. And my dad was very, very serious. He was very quiet. And my dad's a military guy, so sometimes he can be a little bit serious, but something about it just felt off. And then my dad had told me that my uncle, who was 35 years old, passed away. And so it was really hard. I was like crying in my school cafeteria.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting it. And I just wanted to lay in bed and just do nothing. And I remember my audition, my callback for the commercial was due that night. And I almost didn't do it. I laid in bed. I didn't feel like doing anything. I just didn't want to get out of bed. I just felt really depressed. And I don't know why. I forced myself to do it. I was like, we're going to go do this, And I did it. And then I found out 2 days later that I booked it. And so I think that's also an interesting thing about this industry. There's never like a such thing as a perfect timing.
Right. Exactly.
Sometimes it's so inconvenient. And that's just why I say you just gotta be grateful and just enjoy it, because it's crazy. And it's weird the way things happen sometimes. But I think at the same time, I'm really grateful for it,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and there's no guarantees as well. There's some actors out there that are A-list actors that might be in a movie, but that doesn't guarantee them to be in another one right away. Sometimes even A-listers or, fringe A-listers, will be in a big movie and maybe even be the lead and may not work again for another year. I mean, it really doesn't, there's no guarantees, so that's the one thing, like you said, be grateful. And the other thing I wanted to mention when you're talking about commercials, I kind of know a little bit about how that works because I've auditioned for a couple of commercials myself, and I was close to getting one. And the guy that got the part that I wanted was basically I think he banked like $35,000 for that commercial because it was it was showed in 3 states. It was a tri-state area of New York, Connecticut, and New Jersey, I want to say, but because it was I think 3 or more, I think it's considered national. Anyway, there's like a cutoff for the union, whatever it was, but I mean, you can make some really good money. I mean, I would like to know how much the Progressive is making, because I mean, look, every time that thing airs, you get paid, national commercials are no joke. So, a lot of people that are actors out there that are only going for film or for, TV roles, and they're hearing no all the time. Start auditioning for commercials, national commercials.
Yes. You can pay your bills. And one thing that I think sometimes people have an ego with acting, and I think it's honestly a little bit ridiculous, because I think sometimes people having an ego with acting limits their opportunities. I became a member of the Academy Museum, and they do panels. And so I went to, it was a panel, and it was like casting directors who've cast Oscar nominated or winning movies. And so I got to speak to Carmen Cuba, Deborah Zane. Deborah Zane cast all of the Hunger Games movies. Carmen Cuba, she cast Jordan Peele stuff. Vicky Thomas. She's worked with Spike Lee. And so Kim Coleman, she's actually one of the chairs of the casting directors group under the Academy. And Kim Coleman, she was super sweet. I got to meet her and her daughter, and they were awesome. But they were open to questions at the end, and someone asked them, how do you scout new talent? And a lot of them, there was one casting director, I'm so frustrated, I can't remember her name, but she cast Parasite, such a good movie.
Oh
She
yeah.
lives in Hollywood and she goes and watches local theater in Hollywood.
Oh
And then there's
wow.
also a few casting directors, all casting directors who cast huge projects, who said that sometimes they watch national commercials. They'll watch
Yeah.
big commercials all the way down
Sure.
to small ones, and that's how
Right.
they have found some talent. So I
Yeah.
think also don't limit yourself, because I think if you have that mindset, you never know if you're cutting yourself off from getting the role you actually always wanted.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's a great thing that you just said, because, you know, you never know. Like there's a guy I went to high school with. In fact, we were in the first TV production class in high school, and we had a brand new studio built. We had like literally 3 beautiful cameras, a director's booth. I mean, we had a whole state of the art in high school. And there was only like 12 of us in this class, but Steve Zahn and I made wrestling videos together. And, you know, and he got noticed by Ben Stiller when he was performing locally in Minneapolis, where we grew up, at like a dinner theater. And so he was doing a show at a dinner theater. Ben Stiller happened to be in the crowd. He loved the performance that Steve gave. So we put him in Reality Bites, and then he was in That Thing You Do, and then you know the rest. I mean, the rest is history. I mean, he's still acting to this day. So it you never know where you're going to get discovered, or it doesn't matter. It could be a community theater, it could be, you know, regional theater, it could be, like you said, a commercial, it could be a local commercial. You just don't know. So I mean, always give your best effort, no matter what you do. Always give your best, because you never know who's watching.
Exactly.
Right.
And people always, I think another thing too, people will take on smaller projects. The casting director who cast the commercial, the one I did for Snapchat, her name is Anissa Williams. She cast the Straight Outta Compton movie, and she has cast like a few of Beyonce's music videos. And then I had a small part in the music video, Mess It Up. It was a new song by the Rolling Stones, and Nicholas Hoult was in it, and it was a really cool experience. But through that, I found out the director of that music video, his name is Calmatic. He had just recently directed the new White Man Can't Jump movie. And then he just did a music video for Kendrick Lamar. And I think it's also in this industry, everyone is hustling and just trying to pay their bills. So you have people who like tomorrow will probably go do some huge thing, you know, and work with Damien Chazelle. But then the day after that, they're going to go do some small commercial. And I think understanding everybody knows everybody, and it seems really big, which it can, but when everyone knows everybody, it kind of feels a little bit small.
Well, not only that, but you know, it's the work that you do. I don't care if you're a gaffer, if you're a boom operator. It doesn't matter what you do. You're networking constantly, you know, and you're also working sometimes with the same people, where if they don't want to work with you again, you could not work anymore in Hollywood if you're on set and you're difficult to work with. You know, so I recommend everybody, no matter what you're doing, I don't care what job you have, be a nice person to everybody on set. Treat everybody with respect. You know, the receptionist at the casting company, you know, treat them exactly the same as you would with as a CEO of that same company. You know, so that's, a lot of people need to learn that you don't go onto a movie set and act like you own the place, because it's going to be a very short career for you. It doesn't matter how big a star you are, because there's a lot of big stars that people have horror stories about working with, and there's some that are like the sweetest people in the world. They can't wait to work. That's why you see the same directors casting the same people time and time again in their movies, because they're easy to work with. So, I mean,
also
talk about that
making
a little
sure
bit.
You know your lines on set too. There was a big show I was on, and one of the actors, I won't say names, but he didn't know his lines, and it was so bad. The crew, they were talking about him, like the crew was mad because it was like the 13th take, and
because you're keeping them. They have a job. They have the job to do, and you're keeping them from going home to their families if you can't figure it out. And sometimes the biggest stars are the ones that do the less preparation. So the least preparation. So you know, it's important. You know, and I don't know if they taught you this in AMDA when you're going to school there, but you know, the preparation piece of it. You know, a guy that I know is a lead guitarist for some of the big heavy metal bands that you know. And he said the same thing. He goes, look, when I go into a collaborative situation. I might be with, because my question to him was, you're icon. You've been with these iconic bands, but you're with several of them at the same time. So how do you go from one to the other, and know the material? Like he goes, I have to. He goes, I'm not going to go in and waste somebody's time because I didn't practice my part. He goes, I go in, I've worked it out so many times before I even walk in because I don't want to keep anybody longer than they have to be, because of me. So I want to make sure that I'm as prepared as possible. And I think that goes with acting as well, knowing your lines, knowing your parts, saying hi to the people on the set, being a pleasant person to work with. So, so, I mean, what's your process for remembering your lines? I mean, how do you work that?
Honestly, I think how I do it is I think by just rehearsing. I think there's some people who will like to just like stand in front of a mirror and repeat the lines until they're dead in their head. And I think me as an actor, I don't like to do that because I don't want to rehearse the way I say it to where I'm not being a human. Like
it's almost muscle memory. It doesn't sound natural, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. And so for me, what I would do is just like if in college, we would always have scenes and I took contemporary scene study. I've done Shakespeare. I've done the Greeks, I've done it all. And so for me, I would just make sure that me and whoever my scene partner is, we just rehearsed. And then while rehearsing with the blocking and finding new things throughout the process of rehearsal, you slowly just kind of remember it into your brain to the point where I don't need to sit with my script and just kind of like engrave it in my head. Like,
right.
it just kind of just slowly happened. So we would have maybe like 4 weeks to work on a scene before demo day. And me and my scene partner would rehearse outside of class, maybe like 3 to 4 times a week. And just by doing that and staying consistent with it and I think also by doing that, you give yourself room as an actor to find new things. And I think by doing that, it just lets you be a human, And I think some people like, well, I need to walk on this line and put the cup down because this is what I'm feeling. But I think also following like your impulses, like, okay, this is what you think should happen. But would an actual person on this line put the cup down and finding the motivations behind it? Like, am I walking away from someone because I think it's time to move? Or am I walking away because me and this character in the scene are having a heated argument and my character, their way of resolving things or taking space would be to walk away? And so
sometimes I think it'd be overthought as well. People can overthink things. And sometimes if you overthink things, it's going to mess up your thought process about what the line should be because you're thinking about what am I going to do with this cup or what I'm going to do here. Sometimes it's just more natural might be the better way to go because, a lot of people, a lot of actors, and I know this as well, you create sometimes a backstory of the person that you're playing, like to the point where it's like you grew up with this person, like everything from the time they were born, what they how their parents treated them, how their family was, how dysfunctional, whatever. So you're able to kind of create that backstory, so how that person will act in any situation without even having to think about each scene. You just put yourself in that spot, and you already know what you're going to do before you even say your lines. I mean, that's right. Is that the way it goes?
I think that's part of it. I think one of my acting teachers who I think really changed the way I approached acting is he told me, he was like, I think you're a really good actor. I could see you like on a sitcom right now, but I think if you really want to go far and like you want to get that Oscar someday, that I needed to approach it differently, which he was right. And so I think the way I used to do it is just acting, like actually acting. And so I think he kind of reframed the way I approach when I have a monologue where I have a scene instead of doing it. And it's different with drama and with comedic things, in my opinion, but I approach it differently in the way of I'll act kind of based on how I feel. So I'll think about the character. What is this character going through in this moment? And okay, well, they're sad. That's just the base feeling. But what is the actual feeling? They're doing this action. Like, let's say they throw something at someone. That's anger. But what is the actual hurt below that? And then when I am able to think about my life and think about a situation where I can understand the actual hurt, then it's so much easier for me. The lines they just easily go in my head because I just think about how I felt in that moment and all of the emotion is there. And then you just say the lines because your emotion is already there. And I think that was a big game changer for me. At AMDA, we don't really do years. You do it by semester. And I was lucky enough. His name is Leo Foti. He's a really great Italian filmmaker. He had a film in the Cannes Film Festival that won,
Mm.
and I met him my 6th semester at AMDA. He was my acting teacher, and he kind of reframed me from doing things the way I did. And when he did, it just elevated things so much for me as an actor.
Yeah.
And I had him my last semester, and I've taken 2 classes with him since graduating in the past year. And he's just really helped me. And I used to feel like in my early stages as an actor, like maybe the first 2 years, that I was like, maybe I'm an actor that can't cry. I'm an actor that can't have emotion. But then when I worked with him and I reframed the way of, instead of just doing what I think the character would do, and actually thinking about, okay, this character was hurt because they felt betrayed, and thinking about a big moment in my life where I felt very, very betrayed.
Right.
The emotion was there. Right. And I think sometimes people tend to overthink it. And I think it's something like, you're a human, like, you know how it feels to be betrayed. You know how it feels to be sad. You know, we do it every day.
Right.
And when you just think about it like that, it just makes it so much easier, and you get to be a human being and not acting. You're being, you know?
Yeah, for sure. No, I like that. I mean, that makes complete sense. And I think every actor, might have a different process, but, I don't think there's a wrong thing, but, I think, and a lot of times, actors will, even like actors that are in, major motion pictures or like a sitcom, whatever, and they're working constantly. They're still taking acting classes,
Oh, yeah.
They're still going to acting class. And because you have different acting classes and coaches that are teaching different methods, or they're teaching it the way they see it. So you're getting different perspectives on things. And I think that you can always learn no matter what, no matter how long you've been doing this, but how many things you've been in. I don't think there's anything wrong with trying to keep learning the craft, because and also things change technology wise. I mean, you got like 4K, 8K cameras that are shooting, and you can see every little movement in your lip and your, if you smirk, you can see that. Even if you twitch your eye, you can see everything so clearly now that the most subtle things can be seen by camera. And you got to teach that, with actors, because, when you're on stage and you're acting in a theater, it's completely different than when you're on a camera and you just, you're in a tense scene, like a true crime scene or whatever. And the littlest of emotion that you show on your face is going to get caught by that camera. And so you have to approach things completely differently, whatever medium you're acting. And even film is different than TV, and it's different than, in commercials as well, because you're selling something. So
I think it's
right?
so funny that you said that, because you were talking about the close-ups, and this teacher who I think helped me open up emotionally as an actor, ironically, the class I took with him was called Acting for Camera for the Close-Up. And so it would be every single class, we're just working right here. And that was one thing that I think really helped me, because there were things that I noticed I was doing with my face that I didn't see. I just naturally have really large eyes, and I'm really expressive with my eyes. But I began to notice whenever I was not being genuine, authentic as an actor, my eyes were like this, like they were getting so big. And I did not ever know that before, but being up here, I was able to see when I'm having my most genuine and authentic moments as an actor, my eyes are not big, they're normal. But whenever they would get really big, it was because it was not genuine or authentic. And it was so nice to hear you say that, because I think that's something that people don't talk about a lot. The camera catches everything. You cannot lie with the camera being right here. You have to be on it.
Some directors, like, Gary Marshall, let's say. Gary Marshall was famous for having, he doesn't want the camera that close. He never wanted that close. Pull it back, keep the camera pulled back. And that was, as a director, that was his process, is to keep that camera, to see the background, to see the actor more of a full body shot, as opposed to, he hated close-ups. So, but then you got then you got Steven Spielberg method, and they teach us in a lot of classes too, where his camera angles, sometimes he'll dig a ditch, or sometimes he'll dig a hole, sit in the hole, and so he can get that camera up, from up on, below the actor, so he gets that real crazy shot, and he got like, Hitchcock, who used a lot of shadows and different things like that. I mean, each director is different, and you don't know unless you've worked that director before what they're going to want, and you got to be prepared each time you walk on a set to do what they want, but also understand. The other thing that an actor taught me, an actor has been in a lot of movies, he said every actor should know the kind of lenses that the cinematographers are using, the director of photography. What kind of lenses are they using? What is it? Is it a long lens, wide angle? Even know down to the millimeters, like what it is, because that makes a difference in how close up it's going to be on your face and what's going to catch. So, a good actor will know what lenses are being used and know exactly what it's going to do to the screen when it's all edited and everything. So anyway, is that something they taught you in school too, is the lenses that are being used?
That was something we did not learn too much in school. I think my school being more so like not so much a film school, more so a performing arts school, they're a very, very traditional school where you have to learn Shakespeare and you have to learn the Greeks and you have to do Chekhov.
It's more of the acting.
Exactly. We
right.
have opened up to where like I've done so many acting techniques, and I've had so many teachers that have taught me different things from method acting. I had one teacher who would make us hold an imaginary mug and describe the texture of it and feel. I had so many different acting methods, and I think we spent more time focusing on what works for us. I know my school, they created an acting for camera program, I think maybe halfway through my degree program, and now they're expanding it. So I think now they're teaching that, but I think when I went there, that was not their first priority at all.
Yeah, I recommend to any actor, regardless of how long they've been doing this, and I used to, when I was shooting music videos, I used to hire DP, but I used to be involved with every, lens that they were using, and they would explain to me, this is what it's going to look like. And I recommend for any actor out there to take a cinematography class so they know exactly what lenses are being used in different, scenes or different, like angles and different, lengths and spaces and the lighting and everything like that. Cause I think, and the other thing is, there's a lot of producers, that also act, and directors that are acting, and, just like what you're doing, you wrote your play, you produced it, directed it, you're acting in it. It actually makes you a better actor when you understand the production value and the directing piece of it and everything that goes along with that particular project. It makes somebody a better actor because you understand what the producer and the director are looking for. What is their vision, because everybody's got a different vision. And if you understand the vision of that director, you're going to actually be more, persuasive to the audience if you understand what the vision is before you even walk onto the set, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, this is amazing. I mean, what a great conversation. I could talk to you for another hour. But let's talk about your show again. So everybody, before we go, Real People Live Comedy Show, I put August 1st, 6 p.m. It's a free show at 7426. So 7426 West Sunset Boulevard. Is there a name of the venue? Is there a name of the venue?
It's called Deaf Noodles Comedy Club. If you Google it, it's going to say it's permanently closed. So do not be thrown off. It's still a comedy club. I don't know why it says the online, but that is the space.
That's the space. Okay, great. So make sure everybody shows up to that if you're in the LA area. And the last question, you might already know what this question is going to be, but when it's all said and done, Kamden, what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want to leave behind to your fans when it's all said and done?
Oh my goodness. I don't know. I'm not sure. I just think for me, I just think I guess this might be my way of answering my question. If it's not, let me know if I'm not answering a question with this. I think I just want to make an impact. I just don't want to feel like I was on earth just wasting my time. Like I want to make sure that I inspire people. I'm a Black woman. I think we could use a lot of more Black women in film and acting, more representation. And I just want people to feel better, and not just Black women, like anybody. I would like everybody to just feel better, feel understood, and just to feel lighter than however it was before. Maybe they watched me act, or they watched something I was in, or they watched my show, just to feel good. Because I think this earth and life is so hard. So I just want you to just
short.
Feel better, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's great. I love that answer. And again, you know, everybody go check out the show. It's been a great conversation, Kamden, and, you know, my best to you always in your pursuit of this dream, because you're well on your way and you've done a lot of stuff already, but, you know, the sky's the limit for you. And always welcome back on the show. Anytime you want to come back, just let me know. But, you know, thank you for taking the time tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.